We'll now call the school board meeting to order. It is now 7 o'clock. It is Tuesday, November 10th, 2015. We're in the Sierra Room in the Community Center. It's the time, date, and place for the scheduled Carson City School District School Board meeting. And if you will all join me and stand for flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 2, which is the adoption of the agenda as submitted.
So second.
Okay, Steve and Joe is the second. Before we take a vote on the motion, any changes or deletions to the agenda from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Agenda item number 3, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Stokes.
Thank you, President Swerzik, members of the board. We have reached a point in our school year where our fall events are beginning to draw to a close, and we're very pleased this evening to have several teams being represented from our fall sports, and they have accomplished some tremendous things this year as team members, and we'd like to introduce some of these team members, their coaches, and their contributions to their school, and also the accolades that they have achieved this year. So we'd like to first begin with our Carson High School girls golf team, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Wade Greenlee, their coach, to introduce that team to you.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes, Mr. Swerzik, and the board. We got some missing. Oh, I'll wait just a second. That's okay. Oh, you're okay. So we won the all-academic team for girls golf. Very, very proud of these young ladies. And I think what's more important is, besides the golf and the academics, they're even better people. They really are. I had just an enjoyable time. They're good competitors, but very, very good people. So first I'll recognize the people that weren't here. So we had a Jessica Montez and an Allie Perry, and Juliet Favero and Angelica Morrison. So they couldn't be here. Here we have Elise McLaren. She's a junior. And Jill Beglin. And Jill actually also made all-league team and was just one short of making state as a freshman. So you'll be hearing more about her. And then we have Cameron Ayton, and Cameron also won all-state individual as well. So we have her, and then Juliet Favero also got that. So very, very proud of these guys. And so I think you'll hear more of them. We didn't have a senior on the team, so next year will be just as good. So can we get a picture?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. If any of the parents want to come up, feel free to come up and get a picture from this angle.
Yeah. Do you want to take a picture, Jeremy? Yeah, with my camera, because Jill's dad can come up here, so he doesn't.
No one else?
And again, we appreciate the recognition. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, before you leave, Coach. Hey, Coach.
Oh,
Could you have
just a second.
Here. Wait a minute. Bring your.
Come on up.
Bring these.
They're first question. Do we have to
these
speak?
are the.
Oh, yeah. There's an essay, too, required.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is the, the epitome of student athletes, of what you just presented. Now, you get a freshman, and you have no seniors. Are you using, or have you entertained the thought of using golf as a stepping stone toward scholarships going forward into college?
Yeah, it's a definite possibility, yeah, for sure.
You know, we've had, because I coached before, coached the boys, and we've had some guys go on to college. We had a young lady last year that went on to state as well. I'm not sure if she got a college scholarship, but that's certainly within their abilities if they get out and golf now that season is over and practice some more.
You know, and I say this, I have a son who competed here at in golf at Carson, and that was in the year, his senior year was 2000. He was 5th in the state, and then he went on and received a lot of inquiries and finally got in essence, a full ride scholarship to St. Mary's College in that conference, the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga and Pepperdine, and so I'm thinking, you know, you have that opportunity to do it also, and it's. But what I like about going forward in golf, when they say student athlete, student comes first, and athletics second. But when you can combine the two and go forward, good for you. Just keep it up.
There were numerous trips back from Reno where the conversation was, do we have time to stop because we have to get home and do our homework? Yeah. and you know, and that's truly, they put time in. The AP classes, there was no shirking of their responsibility first with that. So like I said, I'm you know, more proud of them for just who they are. And their golfing ability is good too, but you know, they're going to go on and be wonderful, you know, successful people.
Congratulations, you as a coach, and being that leader and giving some guidance, and good for you. Good for all of you.
All
Just
right,
keep it going.
And you'll see these guys again.
Mr. President, members of the board, if you ever walk into the north end of Carson High School and you look just on the wall above the entrance into the gymnasium, you'll see a whole host of plaques there that represent academic state championships earned by teams at Carson High School. And so the individuals that you're seeing tonight have accomplished that again. So out of all of the teams that qualify to go to the state event, our teams, at least here tonight, we have the girls golf team and also the boys tennis team have qualified to be that academic state champion. So this is a highly sought after and very prestigious award, and we're so proud of our youth. So next I'd like to invite Coach Hal Wilkins to come forward and introduce members of the Carson High School boys tennis team.
Thank you, Mr. Stokes. I'm Coach Hal Wilkins. As Mr. Stokes said, we won, and for the second time in a row, this is our second year winning the Nevada Academic State Championship. This season we had 21 young men that counted towards our team GPA. We had no GPA lower than a 3.0 on our team. We had 11 guys get a 4.0 and receive academic all-state as an individual. Our team GPA was a 3.71. Today we brought Henry Sturm, junior, Taylor Sarum, also a junior, Nico Salm, also a junior, and Ryan Tamita, yet another junior. We have a lot of juniors on our team. We had 3 seniors, 2 of which also had 4.0s. I think both of them are probably working while they couldn't be here. Yeah. One of them, Zach Sims, earned academic all-state as an individual 3 years in a row, which is the most you can achieve. Really proud of our accomplishment. We kind of set it as a team goal. After we won last year, we wanted a shot at repeating. We knew it's not easy. The GPAs are taken from the spring semester of last year. So I'm really not in contact with these guys. These guys are doing it all on their own. It's really a true award won by them and accomplished by them. This is their award.
Well, that's just all of you. That, you know, it's something special when you get the like the golf team and the tennis an academic award. That's generally an indicator of your success in life. So good for you, Coach. Any comments from the board here? Go ahead.
I just want to congratulate you guys. I mean, it's great every time we have these board meetings to see the students come up, whether it's academic, sports, the combination of the two, just to see all the positive things our students are doing. And Coach, for guys like you two that are kind of, you know, showing them how to get there, if you will, we really appreciate it. But I wanted to say congratulations to all of you. It really is a big deal. I mean, you know, soak it in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to have back-to-back, I mean, that's tremendous. And to have a guy that's done it 3 years in a row, that means all 4 of you will be here next year with 3 in a row, right? Or at least 2 in a row. But yeah, it is incredible. I mean, we love to win the football championships, but the academic ones are the most important. So good job, guys.
And plus the fact you did it all by yourself with no contact with, or maybe minimal contact with you as a coach, which means you've got 21 or 22 independent learners. Hey, that's great. That's terrific. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you. Good job.
I'm going to add, just as a side note, it was the first time in over 15 years the boys tennis team made it to the semifinals of the regional team tournament as well. So not only did they accomplish inside the classroom, but also on the tennis court. So.
Awesome.
Hey, parents, you can come up here.
I'll come and get a picture for you. I'll send it to you.
There you go. You get a hold of it.
Yours will be better than mine.
Not a problem with your head.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, get in
Now.
there. You don't want to get in there?
Thank you.
Mr. Stokes? Come on.
Come on.
Sorry, it's tilted. Straighten it up.
Get straight.
All right. Excellent. I'll send it over. Whoop, I'm sorry. I'll send it over.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Yes.
Mr. President, members of the board, that concludes my report for this evening.
And we will now start with board reports and board member comments, and we'll start it with Monica Lopez from Pioneer High School.
Thank you, members of the board. Pioneer High School would like to invite our board members to consider joining us at Pioneer High School on November 12th between 12:30 p.m. and 2 p.m. The UNR School of Nursing students will be presenting to Pioneer High School students and staff. The nursing students have carefully surveyed and researched ways to assist Carson area youth regarding common teen health and wellness issues. Just a reminder, in honor of our veterans, there will be no school tomorrow, November 11th. There will be an early release day on November 16th, and Rock Sport will take place on Friday, November 20th. Congratulations to Pioneer students Kenny Mottram and Trenton Lynn, who are performing in the WNC production of Mary Poppins in Carson City. Congratulations also to the science teacher, Mr. Bland, and CTE students, Jasmine Conde, Chaslyn Andrews, Julia Albiter, and Alyssa Hernandez. For their work in the health science information class, they have been encouraged to attend and present at the upcoming HOSA conference in Las Vegas in the spring. We would also like to congratulate Edward Victoria Lara, who gave a rousing motivational rap in front of 400 students at the Transition Summit at UNR last Wednesday. Thank you. This concludes the activities, events, and announcements for Pioneer High School.
Monica, on the 12th, what time?
On the 12th, between 12:30 to 2 p.m., like between then.
Thank you for the report. Tommy?
Carson High Sports have had a great postseason. Last Saturday, our girls volleyball team lost in the conference regional championship to Minogue, who will be going to state this week, but still awesome. Our boys soccer won the regional championship and will be playing against Cimarron Memorial High School, November 14th at North Valleys. Our girls soccer lost the conference championship to Douglas, and our football team is playing this Friday against Reno High. Our student council will be hosting a tailgate for anybody interested in coming at the snack bar at the high school before the game. This weekend, our student council will also be at Salvation Army, packing Thanksgiving boxes for people and families in need for Thanksgiving. This Thursday, we'll be having our academic letter ceremony to honor students with outstanding academic achievement. We're also in the middle of several activities, including getting sports pins out to those who played this fall sport. We hosted a bus driver appreciation day, surprising them in the morning with donuts and coffee. We're also in the middle of setting up a teacher appreciation wall, a school beautification project, a dodgeball tournament's going on this week, an alumni breakfast, a charity event, and one of my most exciting parts, we'll be hosting having a teacher basketball game of Carson versus Douglas next Thursday, and the proceeds for this game are going to be donated to the Sheriff's Memorial Organization and the McKinney-Vento Students in Transition. So, yeah. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Good report. Steve? Okay. Dion?
Just a few things for Fremont. This Friday at 7:30 a.m. is their PTA meeting. The week of the 16th through the 20th, they're going to have several events. All next week is the book fair. And then Thursday, the 19th, they're partnering with the PTA for a dinner and a family hands-on science night that will be sponsored by Sierra Nevada Journeys.
Stacy?
I have a Pie to Rescue. It's a fundraiser for the high school culinary arts program and the Nevada Dream Center, where you buy a pie for $20 from the website called pietotherescue.org, and proceeds go to the culinary arts program. Deadline is the 22nd, and they have pumpkin, apple, or pecan. And then just for NASB, I have a phone conference on Wednesday or Thursday night if there's anything anybody wants to bring up. And then, of course, our conference is next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay, Ryan? Laurel?
Yes, for Fritch Elementary School, the Watchdogs are having next Thursday, November 19th at 7:30 a.m. coffee and donuts free. And the Watchdogs is a program to encourage dads, stepdads, uncles, grandparents, any adult brothers, any positive male role models to come and volunteer in the school. And so they're starting that up with the Dads and Donuts next Thursday at 7:30. And we'd like to thank Mr. Colin Jones, who is the parent of a kindergartner, for stepping up to be the top dog pack leader this year. Also today, I had the opportunity to attend the veterans programs at Carson Middle School and at Fritch Elementary School, and I just wanted to thank the music teachers, Miss Valley for choir, Mr. Jacques for band, and the history teachers who have the students do a project where they interview a veteran and they put placards out on the front lawn, and those will still be on display through tomorrow at least, and probably continuing to the weekend. I'm not sure how long. And the administration for letting the students do this. Mrs. Melsheimer at Fritch, her choir did a great job. I think it not only it thanks the veterans for all of their service, but it teaches the students to appreciate that. And I enjoyed at the elementary school today just looking at that sea of kids from every background and thinking that's why the veterans did what they did, so that those kids could be educated and have that opportunity. So I'm grateful for our administration and teachers that take the time to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Joe?
Nothing.
And nothing for me at this time. Okay, we're going to agenda item number 5, which is association reports. Seeing none. Agenda item number 6, public comment, and this is the time for comments for any item that is not on the agenda that you'd wish to discuss that pertains to the schools or school district. You can come forward, and we do have one signed in, and Mr. Dolly.
Thank you, Mr. Swerzik. Dave Dolly. I'm the parent of 2 freshmen at Carson High School. Thank you for letting me speak here today. There's two items I'd like to talk to real quickly, and the first one is regarding a health screening that took place last Thursday and Friday at the high school. An email was sent out, and this is really important. An email was sent out on Wednesday, November 4th at 3:45 p.m., which states, in accordance with NRS 392-420, Thursday, November 5th and Friday, November 6th, Carson High School Health Office will be conducting freshman health screening in their freshman transitions classes. They will be screened for height, weight, scoliosis, vision, dental, blood pressure, and hearing. Please have your child wear their glasses or contacts and be prepared to be screened. If you have any questions, please contact the high school health office, and it gives a phone number. Thank you. Well, this was back when my daughter was in middle school. They did this health screening. And in middle school, she was required to lift the back of her shirt. And she was mortified. She's a very modest individual, and she didn't like that. And so when I asked about it in middle school, they said there is a way to opt out of it. Being at 3:45, the office was closed at the high school. I couldn't contact anybody. So I sent an email, and I asked how to opt out of it. In the meantime, I actually got the statute, and I do have copies of my email and the statute. NRS 392-420, Section 8 specifically says, the school authority shall provide notice to the parent or guardian of a child before performing on the child the examination required by the section. The notice must, it doesn't say shall, it says must, inform the parent or guardian of the right to exempt the child from all or part of the examinations. Any child must be exempted from an examination if the child's parents or guardians files with the teacher a written statement objecting to the examination. 17 hours before this examination started, we got the notice. There was nothing in there about opting out or how to opt out. And I think it's wrong. This kind of goes back to the whole calendar, approving the calendar last year. The calendar was finalized on Monday, and you guys were supposed to vote on it on Tuesday. There's no notice to the parents. The parents are not finding out about any of this stuff. And this is specifically required by law. That's one thing. Second item that I have, and I'm very concerned about, is the one-to-one project. I love the laptops. I think they're awesome. But people, or the students, are taking tests on them now. And if they are stumped on a question, some of them are Googling the question and getting the answers. I don't think that was the intent behind this. I don't think they should be cheating in order to answer the questions on the test. And I think that really needs to be looked into. I know people use, or the kids use their smartphones for these things. I've seen they do it up at the college, and I think it's wrong. But I don't think they're getting the knowledge that they need to get by Googling the answer. So those are the two items I wanted to talk to. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And Mr. Stokes, I'm sure we'll look into both of those, and Sue, both of the items, and just get back to Dave.
Mr. Chairman, I recognize this isn't a discussion. I'd just like to note for the record that I had 3 other parents in the last week point out the same, information about the notice requiring the health screening. So.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is the presentation of 2015-2016 Carson City School District Board-sponsored American Citizen Essay Contest winners. And Mr. Stokes, I'm looking forward to this one.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, like you, I too look forward to hearing what the students have to say on matters that are connected with us being citizens. And I'm always inspired, I'm always enlightened when I hear what they have to say. And so I look forward to hearing our young people tonight. Just to give you a little history and a little background with regard to our American Citizen Essay Contest, this started shortly after the events of September the 11th, 2001. And our board at that time felt like it would be an important lesson in American history to consider different topics associated with patriotism and being a citizen of our country. And during the last several years, when we have considered the topics and encouraged our school teachers and also our students to take part in this activity, we've heard some amazing things and expect the same tonight. If I could just tell you a little bit about the topic that was selected this year. The board selected, in your opinion, what is the most important freedom in the Bill of Rights? And the individuals who submitted entries were judged according to how well the writer adhered to the topic at hand. The writers were also judged on the quality of their writing and also originality of thought. This year we had 151 total entries, 10 from the elementary school, 51 from the middle schools, and 90 from the high schools. We would like to sincerely thank the staff members in our district who were part of helping to judge these essays, and I'd like to identify and thank Lacey Carey, Lori Shine, Hillary Mendeguia, Cheryl Macy, and Pam Copperthwaite. And we also had our friend from the Wells Fargo Bank, Mrs. Lynn Heislin, who has been a friend to this process ever since its inception. And also our thanks to our community partners at Wells Fargo who helped provide some of the money that is being used to give to our individual authors, students who placed first, second, and third. So as a reminder, our first place winners receive money in the amount of $80. Our second place winners will receive $30, and our third place winners will receive $15. And each of our winners have been asked to read their essays, and that's just our first place winners. And so I'd like to begin by introducing our third place winner from Mark Twain Elementary School, fifth grade student, Mr. Nolan Peterson. Congratulations, young man. Oops. And I have for our winners a little card and also a certificate. So Nolan.
Parents, if you want, you can come up here and take a picture that way. Feel free.
Hang on just a second. Let me give you that. So, Nolan, let's come right over here and we'll get a nice photo up. We'll shake hands. Look at the camera. Very nice. You don't spend all one way. Our second place winner in the elementary category, also a fifth grade student at Mark Twain Elementary, is Julissa Aragon. I know it's here. Let's come right over here. And our first place winner in the elementary category, also a 5th grade student at Mark Twain Elementary, is Natalie McGuire. So Natalie, should we take your picture first and then have you read your essay? Or would you like to read your essay first?
Whatever.
Dad's here. Let's go ahead and get our photo.
Is this embarrassing?
Give this to your dad, or do you want to hang on to your money?
You can take it.
Okay.
My heart was getting bigger with pride as I was reading the Bill of Rights. I thought to myself, I'm proud to be an American because of all the rights we have. In many other countries, they do not have all these rights because they do not have the Bill of Rights. Out of all 10 amendments, there is one that especially stands out to me, is the First Amendment, and I will tell you why. In my opinion, I think the First Amendment is unique because we all have the right to speak freely about our opinion, and no one can tell us otherwise. This amendment is also important because we all have the right to assemble. We may have the right to get together, but we do not have the right to hurt others. There is one more right we have. This is the freedom of religion. This amendment is very important because we would not be able to believe what we believe because there would only be one religion and we'd all have to believe in that religion. The First Amendment impacts my life because if I did not have the freedom of speech, I would not be able to tell my opinion on anything because we'd all have to think about everything pretty much the same. An example is we all have different ways to do multiplication. If we didn't have this amendment, we'd all have to do the problem the same way, even if it's hard for others. The Bill of Rights makes America a successful nation because in other countries they do not have the right to say no to others, or I don't agree with that. They couldn't be Christian when others are Mormon. In other countries, many women do not have the right to say anything, have a say in anything, like if they want to go to school or if they want their husband to stop hurting them. What I think will happen if we follow this amendment is we will become a successful nation because we will be free to and allowed to speak up. We will also be able to express ourselves with signs, posters that show us and no one else.
All right, well done, Natalie. Next, we'd like to move to the middle school category. And from Carson Middle School, placing 3rd place, I would like to introduce Josephine Payan.
Are you sure you don't want to do another
Want to do one more? Let's do one more. Thank you. So also in our middle school category, 2nd place winner from Bethlehem Lutheran School, we have Andreas Gilson. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Here, we'll give you that. Come over here for a photo op. Congratulations. And our first place winner is a young man also from Bethlehem Lutheran, Mr. Brian Guthrie.
Okay.
United States Bill of Rights is what guarantees us our freedoms. Without these rights, it would be a very government-controlled country. I am very thankful that I do not have to live in a country where my government controls everything that I do. I think that all of the rights that we have worked for are all very important. However, I'm going to talk about the right that means the most to me, freedom of speech. As U.S. Supreme Court Justice Benjamin N. Cardoza in Palco v. Connecticut said, freedom of expression is the matrix, the indispensable condition of nearly every other form of freedom. Freedom of speech is the right that I appreciate the most. Freedom of speech means freedom for you to express your opinion. It also means that the government cannot pick and choose which expressions to authorize. Freedom of speech includes wearing wristbands, protesting war, or supporting breast cancer. You have the right to contribute money towards political campaigns. With few restrictions, you have the right to advertise commercial products and professional services. You have the right to engage in symbolic speech. However, freedom of speech also means freedom for those you despise, and the freedom to express the most despicable views. There are also limits on freedom of speech. Freedom of speech does not include inciting actions that would harm others, such as saying that there is a bomb on an airplane and starting a panic. Students cannot make an obscene speech at a school event, and they cannot print articles in a school newspaper over the objections of the school administration. And I'm also glad to live in a country where I can express my opinions without fear. For instance, the school can have a dress code that students are forced to conform to. However, there is nothing stopping me from arguing that we should be able to wear whatever we want, because I feel that we should be able to express our own sense of style. Another reason why I'm thankful to live in America is that we can express our thoughts. I do not want to think of something and be scared of what might happen to me if I express it to other people. I think of other countries that do not have the freedom of speech. I wonder what it must be like for them to not be able to express their thoughts. They might just be used to it, but I think that most of them wonder what it is like to be able to express their own thoughts like we can. This is why I think that everyone should be able to express their opinions, whatever they might be. All of these reasons make me love my country. I am extremely grateful that I get to live in the United States of America. I cannot imagine what it might be like to live in a country where the rights that I enjoy are not guaranteed to everyone. I hope that someday all countries can have the same freedom of speech that some of us have taken for granted. I cannot imagine what it might be like to be in their shoes. All of these reasons make me proud to say that I am an American. I am grateful that I get to live in the greatest country on earth. I just wish that everyone in the world was as lucky as we are. Though all of our rights are very important, freedom of speech is the most important to me.
Hey, Brian, very well done.
Thank you.
Moving on to our high school category, I would like to recognize as our third place winner from Carson High School, Angela Cerrone. Our second place winner in the high school category is Carla Torres, and I don't believe Carla is here tonight, but we want to thank her and recognize her for contributing and being involved. I think Carla deserves a nice hand of applause. And our first place winner this evening is Alan Moises Fernandez Garcia from Carson High School. And Alan has asked if I would read his essay, and so I'm happy and proud to do that. Thank you, Renee. The most important freedom in the Bill of Rights is the freedom of speech. The reason why I think this is the most important freedom in the Bill of Rights is because it joins humanity as a team. It grants and builds inspiration, self-esteem, and happiness. Why has human knowledge increased so much? It's only one person who did it. How can or how has humanity done it? Looking further into the future, one can see that it has not been done by just one person, but by a group, a community. Human knowledge has increased because of the Bill of Rights. When creating a new invention, it's not necessary to have more than one person. It needs to be a contribution of everyone. It's hard for some people to get inspired in hard times, but there are those who can get inspired easily, and they can influence a change. The power of words can bring huge amounts of inspiration to get people together. That's the reason why I think that this is a perfect way to define this right. When a crew feels that they cannot push anymore, it's the leader's responsibility to get up the moral inspiration and willingness of the crew to achieve a change. History teaches us that language is very powerful in every version and format it has. That's how Stonewall Jackson got his nickname. He did not call for a retirement, and he inspired his crew and won the battle. Inspiration is brought in different ways. Doing actions is one of them. Giving a good speech is part of it. We have the power of evolving our minds and produce huge changes. Inspiration is part of this. Without freedom of speech, it would be harder to express, inspire, and produce large-scale changes. Self-esteem is the level of how much one appreciates themselves. At times, we want to say our opinions to everyone, but we do not do it because of fear. We are scared of that others will laugh or degrade our persona. But when the words finally come out, bravery, character, and leadership are demonstrated. That makes someone even a more unique person among everyone around the world. That makes a leader. Hearing personal ideas or thoughts in one's mind makes them to create an infinite argument without end. As an example, there is Martin Luther King. He may have been scared when he started to fight for the rights of black people. He fought and fought for it until death. Martin Luther King achieved his purpose of getting equal rights for black people. His actions, even to this day, inspired the masses. But that also had a price. He needed to be tough, strong, and he needed not to be scared of anything. He wanted justice, and he got justice by never giving up. By this, he influenced a change through his actions, his bravery, and his ideas to everyone through freedom of speech. He knew that he wasn't alone in that fight. He knew that there were other people who wanted the same change that he was looking for, equal rights for everyone. Happiness is achieved when the influence that a person produces is supported by other people who are fighting for the same cause and an equal change. Also, expressing oneself is a way to get happiness with a freedom that no one can take away. There is this famous phrase from Mr. William James that says, "Action may not bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action." It is true, if happiness never came with all the effort done, even less possibility will happen without any action. If there must be a change for something good for everyone, and there is the possibility to do it, action takes the change, influence supports the change, and willingness creates the change. Sometimes changes bring happiness and people together when done for a fair purpose, but is complicated or almost impossible to achieve when there is no freedom of speech. Therefore, freedom of speech is the most important freedom in the Bill of Rights. It allows individuals to express themselves, a strong self-esteem to produce changes that can bring happiness. People can change the world through words. That's why I think that freedom of speech is the most important freedom in the Bill of Rights. That was by Mr. Alan Moises Fernandez Garcia. Did I already give you your stuff? Okay, let's stand over here and get a photo. Congratulations.
Hey, Alan, very thoughtful and very well done.
If we could have all the winners come up, we'd like to get a group shot and appreciate the Nevada Appeal being here for this occasion. Thanks all.
Well, congratulations to all of you, and thank you for taking the time to do what you did. Okay, we'll go on to agenda item number 8, which is an informational update on remote area medical RAM vent. And that's Kathy Bartos. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll take a short 5-minute recess. meeting. And again, we're on agenda item number 8, informational update on remote area medical RAM event, October 16th to the 18th, 2015. And we have another remarkable person in Kathy Bartos, so let's have that great report.
Thank you very much. My name, as he said, is Kathy Bartos, and I am the Director of Partnership Carson City. And we just held the remote area medical event October 16th, 17th, and 18th at Carson High School. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with what remote area medical is, it was started by, and I think most of you are probably too young, maybe you, Ron, is Liberty Mutual's wildlife program, and they had Stan Brock, and he was the guy that didn't wear the shirt and was running through the wild brush and all that. It was a phenomenal show. But he, in his many travels, realized that there were a number of communities that did not have access to appropriate medical services, and he saw people in serious pain and decided that he wanted to do something about it. So he initiated a fundraising venture and was able to bankroll Remote Area Medical, which is as you saw it in Carson City, it was a 70-foot van that rolled up in front of your high school. It unloaded 40 portable dental chairs with a whole dental unit into your large gym. It unloaded 7 or 8 optometry centers, just like you'd see in your own vision doctor's office, into the small gym. And then we unloaded quite a bit of medical equipment into the wrestling room for a medical triage unit. And it was actually some of your students that came up with the idea of taking wrestling mats and putting them up on their end and circling them around to create the exam areas, because we didn't have enough drapes to do that. So why did we decide to have RAM come to Carson City? Partnership Carson City spends a great deal of time running coalition groups and communities. And one of the biggest issues that our nonprofits and our other service providers in the community identify as being an obstacle between their clients' success or not being successful were 2 things. They said Carson City does not have enough access to free dental services or affordable dental services for those that don't have insurance, and even for some of those that do have insurance. A lot of the working poor are people that we see coming through events like this. The other one, which is not associated with RAM, but just for your information, is the lack of mental health services for adolescents. That's something else we deal with as a significant barrier for people and their achieving their high potentials. So that's why we decided to try and bring RAM, which landed me in Mr. Stokes' office in September of 2014. RAM, as you can tell by the way I described it, it's a huge event. It takes a lot of space. It takes over 20,000 square feet, plus those individual rooms for the different triage centers. And I tried Fuji Park, I tried this area, and either they weren't available or it boiled down to we needed the high school. So I think I ran a couple of other ideas for you first. They were easy ones I knew you'd say yes to, and then I think I went in for the kill with the RAM idea. And I said, here's the deal. They're going to Las Vegas the first weekend in October. They're going out to Yerington the second weekend. They're coming to us the third weekend. If we can find a location, what does the high school look like that week? And he opened the calendar, and sure enough, during that week, there was already a day off scheduled on Monday. He just switched it to that Friday and kept school going that Monday, and we had the 3-day block of time that we needed. So it is completely his fault that I lost like 9 to 10 months of my life organizing this event with a lot of the help of volunteers. It was huge, and it took the participation of quite a few of your students. Your culinary class cooked lunches all 3 days for the volunteers. We had over 400 volunteers to feed every day. The HOSA students came out in droves, and they helped take vital signs. They helped do the entry data collection for people to find out just exactly who we had coming through the door and what their needs were. The new club at your school, One Up, which is helping students identify that you don't compete with other people, you compete with yourself to achieve your maximum potential. They were there helping out. Your maintenance crew, amazing. I want them just to adopt me. They were just the greatest guys, and were there at 3 o'clock in the morning helping us throughout the entire day. And then, of course, JPO and Rites of Passage, they helped clean up at the end of this. The Wildcat softball and baseball team, they did all the setting up. So without the young people in this community, we would not have been able to pull off this event. It was absolutely extraordinary. So The Salvation Army, they were there with their emergency response truck to help feed the number of people we had in line. This was very much like Black Friday at Best Buy. The people were lined up. We didn't open the doors. We started handing out numbers at 3 a.m. in the morning, and we suggested that people get there a few hours before. People were there at 5 p.m. the night before, and they were there all night. And then most of them we were able to get in, and the doors opened at 6. So there was quite a bit of waiting time to get into this. When it was all said and done, we saw 1,076 people, and I believe you have the summary of exactly what services were provided to them. Also, just so you have an idea of the financial advantage of this, RAM sends me a report that's a little over 100 pages long that gives you a lot more information on dental and vision services than you could probably ever want to digest. But the one thing that they did send me that I think is pretty important is by the end of the 3 days, $251,705 worth of services were provided free to our community and to these individuals. So we feel it was a real successful event. I don't know if we're going to be doing it again anytime soon, hopefully, maybe after I retire. But it's like I said, it's quite the event. And I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have about this or anything else about it. We do have a few heroes I'd like to acknowledge. Dr. Baggett, who volunteers at the Fish Clinic at least once or twice a week. He was there all day Friday and all day Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right along with our Chief Medical Officer for Carson City, Dr. Susan Pintar. Again, 6 to 6, all 2 days. And then we had Dr. Palazzolo, who worked all day on Friday in the Vision Center while his car was getting totaled in the parking lot. It's a rather unfortunate experience. But he was the one who called me Saturday morning and said, how is it going out there today? And I said, well, we had not one but two of our optometrists had to cancel on us, one for a client emergency and one for kidney stones. And I said, I've got enough clients here for them, and they're not here. And he goes, I'll be there in 30 minutes. And he came back, and I said, well, you're going to bring us another car to total in the parking lot, too? Or, that was quite exciting yesterday. And he worked the whole day. And then on Sunday, we also had an incident where we had not one but two dentists that had to cancel on us for their own patients' emergencies. And I saw one gentleman kind of wandering around suspiciously, and he came over and he said, I just dropped my daughter off at HOSA to volunteer. And he goes, can you use some help? And I said, well, what do you do? And he goes, I'm a dentist. I'm like, oh. No, you are the second coming of Christ, is what you are. And he took a chair, and he wiped out an entire section of the bleachers. He had 4 or 5 chairs going at one time and saw all those people on Sunday. So it was our heroes among us that made this happen. So we have a tremendous community, right from a superintendent that is able to take a counter and go, yeah, we can do this. The one thing RAM observed about Carson City, in addition to the fact that they had more volunteers than we could even use, was that they saw a tremendous number of families coming in here in Carson City. He goes, there were mom, dads, grandmas with the children coming. He goes, and some of the worst cases we've seen in terms of dental. We had not one but two women who had every single tooth removed. During this RAM event. One of them had been in the hospital 4 times in the past year from blood pathogens that had resulted from the damage in her mouth. She was the mother of 3 children that are in your schools, and she's in tremendous pain. So we were just happy we were able to help the people that we did, and yeah, we will be doing it again, but probably, I'm thinking Sun Valley is a good Northern Nevada location next time around. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Kathy, heard a lot of great comment out in the community, a lot of positive opinions from folks. Are the services available in the community for these folks from other sources? Is it a case more of awareness that, if somebody has some of the issues that were dealt with here, is there a place to go in the community if they really need the help?
Right now, there is very, very little. The problem is that Medicaid does not pay for adult dental care, And for children in Carson City who are on Medicare, there are only 4 out of 41 dentists that will accept it for children. And part of that is a disparity between the cost of the service and the Medicaid reimbursement. Plus, to be quite honest, filling out a Medicaid form to get reimbursement is like filling out your taxes. It's very tedious, it's very laborious, and it's a difficult process. So one thing that did happen is Lori Bagwell, who was on, our city supervisor, she helped out in the dental arena and was shocked at the extensive dental damage that people had, and we weren't able to fix all of it for a lot of people who came in the door. FISH has a grant to provide adult dental services in the community, and so what she did is she took the list of the people that we were unable to fix everything for and try to get them served through that grant that FISH has. Will all of them be able to be seen? I don't know. And then for Partnership Carson City, we sent aside some funding to develop a contract with one pediatric dentist who does take Medicaid to get in some of our more severe cases of children needing those services. Children who are undocumented, families who are undocumented, there is nothing for them. So the working poor, people who don't have the funds to even provide with the supplement on a health insurance, but we all know that one of the first things health insurance deletes are dental and vision. We had one woman that was almost legally blind, and I said, "How did you get here?" And she said, "Well, I drove." And I'm like, "Okay." And she drives her kids to school too. So she walked out of there with a new pair of glasses. That van, that 70-foot van, converts into a dental glass-making lab after they remove all of the equipment. So people have new glasses made for them on the spot. So it was incredible. It was an incredible and very long weekend. But it was great.
Well, Kathy, I'm going to say it again. You are a remarkable person, and you named a lot of the volunteers or the groups or individuals, but it takes somebody to plan, organize, coordinate, communicate, and monitor. This was a huge event, and I think the community and all of us just thank you so very much for doing this, because without someone, you or someone like you, it wouldn't happen. And the results are the people that needed the services were able to get the services in a well-organized, orchestrated manner. And like you said, it took 9 months of your life. But thank you. I don't know if that's enough, but thank you for what you did.
I'll tell you, see those people walk out, and this one little girl, I was telling Richard that I got, a woman who, of course, called and complained and said, the high school is being used. And so I explained to her, well, no, there was not. It's still 180 days of school, and no, we just switch it from a Monday to a Friday to make this all happen. Well, she wasn't satisfied. And so I said, well, I'm going to send you something in an email, if you don't mind, that will explain to you, why we did this. And I emailed her a picture of a little girl that came out that had glasses, and they were like about the size. She really needed glasses. They were pretty thick. And she comes out and she goes, "Look at these." She goes, "I can see you." And I said, "Really?" I said, and she was as cute as a bug. And so I just sent the woman the picture. I said, here is why we did this. It's because I couldn't say no to her. And let that picture speak volumes for people. These are our kids, for goodness sakes, and their parents. And we all know how it feels like to try and parent with a bad tooth. Okay.
How many local professionals volunteer? Do you know?
Yeah, we had there were 2 local doctors, Dr. Baggett and Dr. Pintar. That was the toughest recruitment area for us, and we're not quite sure why, but we sent personal letters and we really tried. But I do know that a lot of our dentists, our doctors in town do donate a lot of their own time, and see a lot of patients pro bono.
How about dentists?
Dentists, we did really well with the dentists. I think we had 12 different dentists that volunteered over the 3-day period, and they knocked out, as you can see, a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then the optometrists, we had 5 different optometrists that volunteered over the course of vacation. Next time, we're not going to pick hunting weekends.
Well, I had an opportunity today, just on the off chance. I had my daughter down at Palazzolo's, and I thanked him and shook his hand for doing that. I think it would be, we don't want to pick fights, but I think it would be nice if there was a list of folks who volunteered, so that the people could patronize the people who are giving back, because it's unfortunate. Because you're right, we have a large need in this community, and we need more of the medical professionals. We don't have a problem turning out volunteers in bulk, but sometimes specialties are tough.
They are. It was a little tough, but you know, it somehow it all happened, and we had to turn away very few people. And what we are doing right now is we're going back to some of the people that had said they would be interested in volunteering, but then were not able to make it, or for some reason they had to cancel that day. We're calling them up now and saying, hey, I've got a couple people that just need some follow-up. Can you handle them? We had one little boy whose abscess was horrible, and we were able to pull that one, but he had two others that are so bad, his breath was horrible. Yeah. And so I'm trying to find a dentist right now that'll take him and extract the other two teeth we couldn't get to during the time he was there. And
well, thank you for your work.
Those ones that weren't there that day, they were there. We're not done with them yet.
Good, good. Don't let them slip either. If you need more people, just come find us. I'll go knock on doors too.
Great.
That's
great.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And the people like Dr. Fortunato that showed up, he has 3 amazing kids in your school district. He's the one that took over on Sunday. He was allegedly retired. So thank you all very much, and thank you for your support of allowing us to do this in your building. I think we left it in okay condition. We use a lot of tarps. So anyway, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Kathy, thank you. And Richard, thank you for making the facility available.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to echo your sentiments. I know Kathy kept us very well informed and worked with us for that whole year. And thanks to Renee, she too did a yeoman's work in just keeping things organized. And another individual that rises to the top of my list is Janice Arthur Towns. There were a number of kind of last-minute requests that came up as a result of a need for technology equipment and services, and our administrative staff, all the folks that pitched in at Carson High School, and the students. I mean, it was really fun to see a group of caring individuals that said, you know, this is like Trustee Green, this was the right thing to do, and people really showed their true colors, and it was a lot of fun to be part of that. I went down on Saturday and just watched for a little while and was amazed, and got the VIP tour of some of that equipment, and it was just really amazing what they put in the back of a semi-truck and take all over the United States. And we were fortunate to have somebody like Kathy in partnership Carson City to really provide that to our folks here in town. So thanks, Kathy. Nice job.
And Renee is the go-to gal.
Okay, we'll continue on to agenda item number 9, informational update on the Race to the Top grant, including fiscal year 2017 budget as it pertains to the grant. Dr. Stephen Perdere.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Stokes, Mrs. Kima. I'm really excited to be here today. First off, I always seem to get to, this is a pretty neat job because we've had, I've been able, every time I get to come here, I get to tell you really good news just because of the great people I have. You all know Jeremy Lewis here is here today, so he's one of our shining stars. I'm going to give you before I start, I'm going to give you a quick story about Mr. Lewis and some of the work he's doing for us. When, you know that we have a new NEPF, which is a very complicated teacher evaluation piece, and with that, there's many complex components to our observations related to that. So Mr. Lewis, on his own, as part of his doctoral program, came through, and you know that we used to have a T4S as a classroom observation tool. Well, Mr. Lewis developed a much more complex tool that is much more in alignment with our NEPF, and now that our principals and our coaches have a tool that we can use to go do classroom observations, and then as we score those observations, it will immediately post it on an NEPF document so that teachers that are being observed know exactly what was seen and how that would connect to their teacher evaluation. So it's a support tool. It's not the actual evaluation, but it helps them to grow. And so that's just one of kind of the great things that implementation specialists do. And since Jeremy was here, I thought I'd go ahead and mention that. So my presentation today is, as Mr. Stokes asked me to come and talk to you a little bit about, is that going to move for me? Oh, I don't know, Renee.
It's not good technology, right?
I can just ask him to move forward if there's somebody I do that. Sorry. Can you just give me one push up there? Sure. Thanks. Okay, so the U.S. Department of Education talked to us in September and let us know that they were going to provide an opportunity for districts to use their Race to the Top funds throughout the second half of the fiscal year. So in the previous year, we were going to have to end our project in December 30th of 2016. We now can go through an application process that will allow us to continue the program until July 1st of 2017. So we can actually go an additional 6 months implementing the program at the same level. We do have the funds to almost fully fund that, and we'll have to look and see as we move forward. I'll have some carryover funds, and we'll squeeze our budget a little bit. And we think that we'll get very close to being able to fully fund in the additional year with the remaining funds. One of the things that we're going to do is reduce the number of days in service. We currently, our implementation specialists work 220 days. Our support staff also have longer contracts. We'll reduce those back down. Part of that is because the workload now really matches a shorter contract. So a 195-day contract would match more of the workload, and it also would set us up for a long-term support of the project. So those are kind of where we are right now. We still are working on the details, and we'll do that, but the application will be sending off the actual application shortly. But the U.S. Department of Ed has assured us that there's not a lot to the application. They just want a verification that we're going to continue the work at the same level. So did I not move? There we go. All right, great. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the successes, because I haven't talked to you all in a while. So the first one that I'd like to talk to you about is that when we were back in D.C. Last month, and we were approached by the supporting contractors for the U.S. Department of Ed to have 3 of the school districts to be recognized for their work and to develop a white paper or a policy paper to help other districts kind of follow in our footsteps. And so St. Vrain School District, Springdale School District, and Carson City Schools will be collaborating on that project so that they can talk about the success of our project and how other school districts can follow our lead in moving forward. So that's, I think, quite an honor for our district to be recognized with the 2 other districts there. In terms of our middle schools, since the last time I've talked to you, there have been really a lot of good work in the applying of the one-to-one and really working in the metacognition. I know that Ron is, and I really appreciate that you always ask the question of, are we using the learning guides? Are students able to clearly define the learning expectations? What's happening in the classroom? And so we're really seeing significant shifts, especially at our middle school levels now that they've had time to kind of do the application in practices in this area. And as you know already from our pass rates, this is working. And our pass rates are continuing along the upward trajectory that we had. And as you remember when I was here last time, I think we had 1 student that didn't meet all the requirements to be able to move on to high school. And that's the first time we've ever done that with our middle school students. Carson High School, a one-to-one rollout, that is happening also at Pioneer. And we're nearly at the end of the curriculum. It took us quite a bit longer. It took us about 6 months to a year longer than what we thought, but we are at the point of application now. So all the courses are using the new curriculum. All the courses are using their new assessments, and all courses are using Mastery Connect now as part of the scoring system, so we're able to do that. Pioneer High School is our greatest gains since last May. So I'm just going to flip this up so you can see it. And for the first time last year, this is students who are passing all of their classes, 100% pass rates at Pioneer High School. You can see now for the first time they're over 70%. Last year, they only, at the last month of the year, did they get over 50%. So they're really on a fast upward trajectory at students passing their classes, and this is really a significant thing. And there's another really neat thing here. If you also look, not only are we at above 70% passing all their classes, but we're only at 9% students failing 2 or more classes. So it's really a big shift on their campus. And if we think a little bit about what they're facing, they truly never faced AYP like everybody else had, No Child Left Behind. But because of the status of that school, being an alternative school, was never held accountable to that. They are now. They're now held at the same standard as all the other comprehensive high schools in terms of graduation rates, which is 60%. And they are now really looking at students passing all their classes, both with the online and non-online, and have a large credit recovery component. Since the start of this year, 21 credits have been recouped by their students from the start of the year till now. So that's a significant push, and they're making significant progress at a really fast pace. So, and again, I get to stand up here and tell the good news, but I'm not the one that's doing the work. As you know, Mr. Lewis and the site administrators and teachers are the ones that are carrying this.
Could I?
Yep. Absolutely.
Clarify something here, Dr. Berdier?
Yep.
So are you saying that the major change is that the Pioneer is being held to those standards, and because they're being held to those standards, there's been a change in the emphasis?
So they had began implementing, as others have, all the components came into play for them second semester, just as it did for Carson High School. There was still a little bit of development to do. But at the same time, they too were having to look at kids passing classes. They really had to look and see, as much as they do at Carson High School, are students making progress that we're setting for them in the classroom? Before, they were able to just, if kids could go there and they could make attempts at classes, but we didn't really look at their cohort group. We didn't look really closely as, are they making progress with their cohorts? So now we were really watching that. I should say Mr. Zona and his teachers really began watching that. Are they moving with their cohort? And then this year they really re-emphasized, are they moving with their cohort? And so they're really changing their practices. They're identifying individual students, and they're really reaching out to see if they're making progress. So I think it is important to note that we are recognizing the importance of kids moving, but also they're changing their practices as a result. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's the, I guess, early intervention, quick intervention, when they're not those learning targets, since we broke it down in all these small pieces. The teachers are able to identify quickly when a child's not getting it, and then get that one-to-one help. Is that?
Yeah, and it's really a clarification of all of it, Mr. Green. So the teachers were clear about what the learning expectations are. That's a big part of this. Students are also clear about the learning expectations. So together, they now understand. And then with the data, then that plays an important role. So metacognition, you know, if you are learning something new and you really understand the learning expectations, you're able to self-adjust as you get information. Our students are the same way. And especially students who have struggled before, it's really valuable to them to see, hey, I'm having success, hey, I'm having success, hey, I'm having success. And I think that's really the culture they're building at Pioneer, and really across our district. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay. So now I know that you've been seeking information on the survey, so I want to apologize first. I probably should have been here in September, but I haven't been with you guys since May, so there was some survey data that you've been waiting for, so Mr. Stokes asked me to share some of that with you today. From when I met to you last time, I want to give you a little bit of a background. So based on your recommendation, we really went with the accreditation questions. So throughout our system, K through 12, there's about 35 accreditation questions that we use that match accreditation, but can be used system-wide. So that would be high school, middle school, elementary. And then we added additional questions that we really needed for Race to the Top. And so on the parent survey, the staff survey, that survey was given over a 3 different week period because it's quite a bit longer. We had the 35 questions for accreditation, and when we had 50 other questions we needed to ask as a result of Race to the Top. But we broke those surveys up, so there were about 40 questions each time over 3 weeks, and we were able to gather those. The nice part about that is we've met our obligation with the U.S. Department of Ed, and a lot of those things were based on the initial implementation of Race to the Top. So we won't have to ask those questions again, and we can really lean more to the questions that are associated with accreditation. So that's very helpful. Those questions for accreditation are vetted nationwide, and so that makes it easy as well. It's used to a lot of high schools and middle schools across the country, and with the elementary piece that goes along with it, then the survey data can be aligned. The date, I've listed the dates up there. That's when those surveys were given. And then what tends to happen, as soon as I close those surveys, which is usually within 4 weeks of when we first initialize those surveys, then the survey results go immediately to the schools. They're disaggregated. They can disaggregate them in any way they need. And then all the response data, they get that as well. So both in English and Spanish. And so all of the schools have been able to use the data as part of their school improvement process. And we have also got to use it as part of our district improvement process here at the district. So we looked at the data as well, and we're able to make adjustments in our program based on what we've learned. What I gave you in the packet is just summary data, and it's really quite amazing. In all the years that I've looked at our district and watched, there will always tend to be an area that there would be big swings in data, things that we really needed to address. But as you saw from the data I gave you, that really wasn't the case. So I gave you all the outliers that I could find in the data, and as you look through the data, you see there's not very many outliers at all. Most of the data is extremely positive, which means that our parents, our teachers, and our students are relatively excited about what's happening in our district. In fact, these are really good data results, especially considering the source of our survey. When I look at the other highlights up there, the second one, student learning and success are central to the organization. So that came out loud and clear in our data responses. And the last one I thought of the highlights was all the surveys reported students working in a safe learning environment. So I think that our families and our students, for the most part, responded very positively to the learning environment that they're in. Some things that showed up that were very interesting are practices related to two-way communication. So we know that we're sending a lot of communication this year, a lot more than we have before, but a lot of it is the robocalls, and parents have, in some cases have said, hey, I either need it sooner or I don't want it anymore because it's too much, but at least we're making an effort for the one-way communication. That's gone up significantly. What we really need is to continue to build practices where there's more two-way communication, more communication between parents and our teachers, or ways that we can build that. So we're looking actively at that, and we have systems in place that are going to be helpful to that. One that's coming that's very exciting is that the student-led conferences in the middle school will also be the opening of the portal for the parents for Mastery Connect. So the parents and the students will sit down together. Part of the training will be the students training their parents how to access the data on Mastery Connect, and then how they can connect that data to the course summary document. So it's really kind of a neat way for us to open that communication window in a really valuable way. So we'll let you know how that goes, and maybe the counselors from the middle school can come and talk to you about that after they get a chance to do it in February. The next one is one of the things that I thought was really interesting was there was one of the questions that said students are very excited to learn new things. So it was interesting when I compared those across that the teachers, that was a little bit lower than it was with the students, I thought it was quite interesting. So students responded not as high as we would have liked, but their response to that question was more positive than the teachers. So teachers were saying, well, they're not as excited to learn as I think they should be, but the students are saying they're excited to learn at a pretty high level. So if that's the case, I'd like it to be good for the teachers, but I'm really glad to see that it's for part of the student piece. The last one is continued grading practices. So this is interesting too, because one of the questions that parents said is that I'm not clear about the grading information. And so this is something that we'll struggle with a little bit as we go to Mastery Connect, because Mastery Connect is about mastering the content and aligning grades to that. So at the middle school, the real initiative right now is using Mastery Connect data to verify what the grade is in the grade book. And so teachers are really trying to say, if you earn an A, you've earned an A because you've mastered these learning targets. And that's different than grading in a compliance grading where, okay, I'm going to give you extra credit today. You're going to bring in your box of Kleenex and we're going to raise your grade. Well, that doesn't really tell us whether you know how to do chemistry well or how to write well. So it's really aligning that and then also sharing with parents, what does it really mean? We actually have the systems in play that parents really can look at this now. Now it's up to us to teach them how to do it. Because we can take a course summary document that's on our webpage, and you all can access that right now. You can look at your son or daughter's class, get a course summary document. You can sit with them as they open up their Mastery Connect, and they can show you. There may be 20 learning targets in the class, 10 have been gone over, and they can sit down with you and say, okay, here's what I'm doing on these 10 learning targets. This is red, yellow, and green. This is what I need to work on. And if you read the learning target, you'll have a really good understanding of what that means. So that door is about to open. And so by February, all our middle school parents should have it. And our high school parents, we hope to have it as we go through the year this year, as they begin to implement. So are there questions about the survey results before I go into some future items? Yep.
I just had a question on the participation in the survey. So what percentage of parents actually completed the survey?
Okay, so
I think that I see raw numbers in here.
Yes, you do.
And they seem a little low.
Okay, so on which group? Let me just look real quick.
Well,
So for the high school, we had, for the teacher staff surveys, we had more than about 50% of our staff responded. So to be a reliable data source, we would only need around 100. And because we're representative across the grade spans, this is a pretty good sample size. So it's pretty reliable.
I was more interested in the parents.
Okay, so on the parent surveys, let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so for the secondary survey for the parents, there was about 219 respondents. So when we talk about a percentage of parents, that's not a great number, but it's still above 90% with the error factor. So if you were considering, would you post this for Newsweek, it's pretty close. So it's pretty close to the number we would need to be a reliable survey for that level of parent. Okay, so
it was 90%? Is that
no. So we're about 15%. We surveyed enough people to have a reliable sample size. When we talk about a 90%, there's going to be an error factor of roughly 10%. So we met that. It's kind of an easy way to say it. I have a program that we use that our researchers use to check that. So what we can do is put the raw number of respondents in, and it'll tell us the error factor. And typically, if we get above a 90% positive rate, meaning that we will only have a 10% error, that's a pretty good survey. So our secondary parents, we exceeded that number. For our middle school, or that's our secondary. For our elementary, let me look at that. So for our middle school, we had about 290. So again, that's definitely a good enough, strong enough number, or strong enough participation rate there. And then for our elementary, we had about 530 parents. So again, it's not, we would like to probably have the percentage higher, but we're still well within the error factor for all of those groups.
Steve, how did they get the survey?
So the survey was done online, and so this time with this elementary survey, what they did it at the parent-teacher conference. So this is from just a few months, this last month for the elementary. So that survey was done as part of the parent-teacher conference at the elementary. So for the middle school, middle school and high school, they were recruiting parents as they came through the buildings, and they also sent out emails to request responses. So middle school and high school. Yep.
And just to clarify, the elementary school, it's not during the conference time. They direct you to the computer labs after your conference, before or after.
So one of the questions Mr. Stokes asked. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Swarzak.
Yeah, Steve. One of the as I was looking through the different questions and how they're weighted, I found it interesting that probably one of the questions got more disagreement than the parents and others than the others, and that was regarding the meeting learning needs by individualized instruction. And I guess my question is, do you think that it was a case where maybe they didn't understand the question, or do you think there's concern in that area?
Well, I think it's something we want to go back and look at. I think that's a great question because it was one of the few areas that we did see that. And so what we really want to know is in an individualized environment, which is what we're really trying to do, can our parents clearly define, okay, these are the learning expectations for my students in every class. How well are they doing? And I don't think our teachers can tell us that yet, our parents can tell us that yet, and we've got to be able to teach them how to use our systems so that they can. So I think that is a legitimate question. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you for your question. Good. Okay, so what Mr. Stokes and I had an opportunity to chat just a little bit and suggested that we ask you, when would you, what is your expectation as the board for us to provide information regarding our surveys? Is there a certain time in the year? Is there certain data that you would like to see? I provided you just a sample survey. I could provide all of that to you. Is there some way, some timeline, or in some way you would like to receive the information?
When do you expect to do these surveys again?
So we've just done our elementary, and we'll be doing the remainder of our surveys in the spring for this year, and we anticipate they'll be finished. They'll start in February and should be done by April or May.
So when is it, I don't want to say comfortable, but when is it good to work within the system to present us the information?
Well, I think it just depends on what's on the agenda, because there's a quick turnaround, and I know in April and May we're honoring our retirees and our Teachers of the Year, so we can fit it in anytime right after the data is collected in. Otherwise, the first week in June.
I guess my opinion would be if when the information is available and it's convenient within the system to present it. I mean, is there a reason to wait?
That's good for me, as long as it's good for you. Okay, so we'll plan to do that then. As soon as they're completed, I'll let Mr. Stokes know, and he can let me know when we'd like to schedule it.
Are you, because these surveys are part of the Race to the Top stuff, correct?
These surveys are part of,
accreditation.
And accreditation, that's correct. And
so are you asking that, though, in response to, because for the past few months, I think all of us have brought up at different points, like a parent surveys that was done a while back. Is this what you're referring to with that one, or was that a different? Because this feels more, I don't know, more attached to like the accreditation or something, not, I hate to use the word not a genuine survey, but you know what I'm getting at? This isn't like,
so the results?
like when doing the strategic plan, you know, there was a very specific survey, you know, getting interest for something else. Are we trying to use this to?
So the survey questions really do apply to the work that we're doing. I kind of really want to reemphasize that. Just because they come from accreditation, accreditation is really designed for us to really look deeply at the work that we provide and the services we provide our students. All the questions that were asked here, not only do they apply to Race to the Top, that they apply to the actual services we provide at each one of our schools. They really are targeted questions that are used across the United States to support that. Also, with the Race to the Top questions, we were very specific for that portion of the survey for things that were related to Race to the Top. We won't ask those again except for things that we might need, but we would do it on a smaller scale.
Just let me, I think for me personally, just what I mean, the packet's nice. I like looking through this stuff, but I like better when you summarize there.
Okay.
Personally, I'd rather see a highlight of the outliers and then the areas that you identified where we needed to improve, you know, and there was a couple things, and then the next time in the spring, connect that back to the improvement. For me, that would be a lot more beneficial than just a package that I got to root through to try to find something to ask you, you know. It's, it just, I guess an executive summary of sorts would be better for me.
Okay. Do the rest of you feel that, oh, sorry, Mr. Stokes.
I would just like to add that one of the reasons that this is an important topic is it seems like in the spring of each year there's a desire by a lot of different groups, including the district, to try to get information from our folks. And so I know that there are specific detail that we report as a result of having the grant. And then there's also taking that information and then maybe other information that might be associated with our regular operations or with strategic plans. But rather than having all of those things culminate in one place, we can be strategic about how we place these. And then that helps us so that parents are a little more willing, or not only parents, but everybody are a little more willing to actually engage in the survey rather than, another survey. And we've run into that in the past. And so we have important feedback that we get from our stakeholders at a lot of different levels. And so we just want to be able to make these things meaningful, be able to use them in a meaningful way to get better. And certainly if you had any feedback for us on the type of information or when it makes sense to present that information to you folks, it becomes predictable, it becomes part of our workflow. It seems to work a little better so that it doesn't all kind of bottleneck at one time.
Yeah, Steve, just back to your question. Truthfully, I don't know when the best time to get the information is, but when I'm looking at this and you guys are giving us this information, really what's important to me, and as I've said it before, is what are our achievement levels and those kinds of things. And so just having it in time to where we can have that kind of intelligent back and forth as to, okay, this is what we're seeing, this is when we're going to implement it, and making sure we have time to discuss it in advance of those implementation schedules, so that if we come up with something that we think is important, we can get it back to you, and then staff can get it into the classrooms in time for it to be effective. And so just the timing of when it gets to the students, I guess, is what's important to me.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so just to close out then, in the future presentations, I want to come to you after the first of the year. We'll let you know what our performance data is in terms of the number of credits that have been earned at each one of the levels, kind of the changing roles of our administrators and our ISs as we kind of move into the new NEPF, and also to implement further the Race to the Top project, our systems of support for our students. We have some new things that developed, and we'll be able to share those with you. And then kind of a paradigm shift to really focus on individual students and their data. So, yep.
Yeah, and I appreciate seeing that up there. I remember several years ago in discussing what our high school counselors had in average minutes per student each year, and it was less than 15 for the entire year. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of changes we've accomplished from that.
And as we move forward now, I get excited about all this because, and I think it goes with what Steve has brought up since the day I've got on the board or even before. The top 10 to 15% of the students, we probably don't have to worry about. They're independent learners. We saw it with the tennis team. I mean, these people are off doing it. But there's that 70% that somehow haven't been afforded, whether it's through family or through others, the incentive or the guidance of how to learn. And with the learning guides, whether you're asking the essential questions, self-assessments, you've got learning targets, you've got Mastery Connect, you're bringing all this together to give students a way to learn for life. it becomes, and they probably are going to be leaving high school now with these learning things. God, what are the essential questions I have to ask for, whatever it is that they're engaged in, whether they go to college, universities, or they're just out in life. They now have a tool that they can use. Now, saying all that, to quantify this, that last step is, for example, the students taking the ACTs. Is this going to translate to, greater ACTs scores? I mean, these are learning centers, on the ACTs. The SBACs, are we going to see a significant, I would say a significant improvement because of this whole process? And that's going to be the, to me, to say, wow, we have now moved into another arena, and we've separated ourselves for the kids' sake here with giving them the tools for success in life. And do you see that?
Right. So what I think I'm start with the conversation that Mrs. Keeman and I had. We've been at this for 4 years now, and our biggest frustration is that we've not had any access to the data for really any of it for this whole time, because as you know, our previous testing system for the state was not in alignment, and our new testing system, even this year, we're not sure we're even going to get the results this year. So we're still 4 years in, and we want to use that time to align. So yes, we will see definite improvement. One of the neat things that happened this week is that we had a team with the scoring, setting up with the scoring and intervention team in Las Vegas. So we had people on math and English. There were 6 members of our district who are working with the State Department of Ed to develop the interventions and to look at the test, the actual tests in ELA and math, and of course exams. And then they're bringing that information back, and already this week are already working on making adjustments to our current curriculum so that we're more in line with what happens. So over time, yes, that is exactly what's going to happen. We'll have a higher pass rate, and we'll see higher scores on our ACT. Remember, too, though, that we still have this gap in learning that we're trying to close. So we still have kids that are sophomores, juniors, and seniors at Carson High that are credit deficient, and so we're trying to close those credit gaps now. The first group that we have that'll be taking the ACT is the group that is in there, that has really been in our program, is the group that's going to be a sophomores this year. So those kids that take the SAT in 2 years will be that first group of kids that have had Algebra 1 and really have been in our system as we go. So we should start seeing switching the ACT along with that as those group of students get there.
Now we combine this with the curriculum with, and I think I talked to Richard a little bit before the meeting, through Amy and Sue, to have some kind of a summit for curriculum, or how would you describe that, Richard? What's coming up at the next PLC?
There are a variety of things that are happening in the state, and the focus for our next PLC will be around STEM education. And just to explain a little further, I met with Dale Urquiaga, Andy Stevenson from Tesla, other superintendents from around our area, and trying to look at career and technical opportunities that are steeped in STEM education, so that our area and the students that are attending our schools and who will be going into the workforce will be as well prepared as possible for addressing the workforce needs of some of these career and technical business and industries that are coming into our area. And so being able to utilize and promote the type of work that Mike Jackson has done with our BEST program, and really to have the true application of that goal in our strategic plan, to say that the community is involved at a high degree, helping us to meet the expectations of our community. Families can have their children go to work here after school, and perpetuate that sense of community that's already been talked about. And so it's really a communal activity, I think, that's being highlighted, and Race to the Top has really helped us get to some of these places.
Well, yeah, the foundation is put in place with the current curriculum that's been developed by the, should we say, the teachers. And now the chance for this, what's coming up is for our high-level professionals or whatever in the workforce to review that curriculum to make sure that it's one for one, that it makes sense going forward, and it's not kids saying, now, why are we learning this? The community will come in to say, here's why you're learning it, because here's how it's used. And I think December 9th at that first summit meeting, there's going to be a lot of, the educators meeting with a lot of partners, business, higher education, everybody moving forward together. So.
And it's really through that input that allows us to truly build that world-class curriculum that we really want our kids to have.
Go ahead.
I have a question for AJ, just because this costs financial, has it? So what is exactly the impact with that extra 6 months? Is it taken out of the previous budget and put in the 17 budget, or how exactly is that?
So the impact of it is really, it makes things a lot cleaner as far as the budgeting process and seeing what our costs are and when those things are going to time out. Because previously we would have had to, we would have had to spend all that money as of that date, December 31st, and then all those positions continuing on, trying to find the general fund money to fund that. So as we look at what those costs are, in ballpark, we'll say 1.5 million. So about half of that would have had been eaten up by the general fund, but because we can now stretch that out with what the changes in the contract that Dr. Padera was talking about, we can actually end up holding those positions and essentially fund them almost the entire year with that money, with very little impact to the general fund. Hopefully, we still have some more to work out with it, but it's looking good for next year relative to the Race to the Top program.
Go ahead.
I wanted to say thank you, first of all, for all the work. I mean, it's obvious, a large amount of work that everybody's put in, but it's good. But I want to get back to Pioneer. I think it was exciting what you said. Do we also measure, I mean, since social emotional wellness is such a big topic now and stuff, but I mean, if we take a group of children who perennially maybe weren't passing, and now all of a sudden they're passing all their classes, the confidence that they develop, or is it too early to tell if we have less discipline problems, or just a happier work environment? Or is that something that gets measured?
Well, it is something that gets measured, and we haven't looked at that specifically yet, and it's something that we probably should look at, especially with that group of students. But you can imagine if you've had a perpetual failing as a student, you've been perpetually failing, and now you're no longer failing, and now there's hope for you. And that's really what's shifted at Pioneer, is that the hope factor for kids on that campus now has gone up significantly. So it's a great question.
Okay, now, just with the budget and going forward past 2017, like Ryan has said, a lot of great work has been done. You stated we've got, like Jeremy, we've got a lot of these implementation specialists that we got a lot of brain power and a lot of caring people here that have made things happen. Are we looking, and I think we are, but I mean, to retain these people if they so choose, maybe in different role. I don't know what the role is going forward of how to continually raising the bar. It seems like we've got the people, if they want to, we want to keep them, but are we working on how we keep them?
Well, absolutely. We're concerned that I think like any organization, you're going to put your people in positions where they can garner the most impact. And as our folks have been trained, and of course they bring a tremendous amount of just natural ability to our organization anyway, regardless of where they are. But when we first started Race to the Top, Dr. Perdere was very strategic and in figuring out the number of individuals that would be needed in the different roles. There was a significant amount of work that needed to be done. Much of that work has been accomplished, so we're in a different place 4 years later, 3 years later. And so while we may not need to have the exact number of implementation specialists at that point 3 years later as we did when we first started, is because some of that work now has gone from being accomplished in a overall manner to now we're maintaining and moving forward. So we're in that place. We're trying to understand what's going to be needed. Obviously, we're moving from a place away from having the federal funds to do that work to using general funds and of course other grant funds if we need to. And that's part of our discussion. We want to get to a place that we take the very best of what we learned from our Race to the Top program and apply it as we move into the future, simply because we've seen the value and how it's increased students' capacity, and our teachers have gotten better, our administrators have gotten better. I mean, there really has been some significant work here that's been done. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that all of our folks will have jobs. That's not a question. From a contractual perspective, they are in a position where they would be retained even if the bottom fell out. But we want to use them in these roles where they've become experts and continue to use them. And we believe that we can do that. And then we want to apply not only to the secondary level the things we've learned about our efforts at the secondary level, but we want to push that to the elementaries as well. So again, we've got this guaranteed curriculum. Our folks know what they're teaching. Our students know what to expect. Our parents recognize it. And we have these tremendously powerful data tools that are here for all of our folks to look at and to make educated decisions about what to do next in our system. And I just can't tell you how amazed I am at the power that gives us as we continue. And so I don't know, it's just it's been one of the most rewarding things I've ever been involved in, and just working with all these folks, it's been tremendously powerful as a professional experience, and I see that continuing in our district. So it's our goal as a team to work toward that end and to maintain these experts and helping us to continue to get better.
Additional questions, comments?
I'll just make one closing
Go ahead,
comment.
Joe.
Steve, I appreciate everything you guys are doing too. I mean, what we're doing, I think, is obviously beneficial. Whether or not all the results are in yet, the more attention we dedicate to these kind of things, I mean, the kids are going to certainly improve their knowledge. But what I find pleasing, if you will, for me is I expect district staff, you, teachers, and everybody to come on board, understand how to make this all happen. But when I get to talk to some of the students, and I have, my daughter, her friends, other kids, and some of them don't, obviously, but generally speaking, they get it. And I ask them, what's different now than maybe what you guys did a couple years ago? Even at the middle school, 9th grade level, they understand it. And they are more active in their education. And I think, to me, that says a lot about what we're trying to do. I don't expect them to understand as much as you or staff, but the fact that they understand it says that I think we're connecting with them. And I think that's probably the most important thing, is that connection. So somehow we're doing it, and thank you.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. That's great to hear.
Well, see, we have a student here. I could just put him on the spot. You want to make any comments about what's going on?
Sure, why not?
Okay, you can get out of here if you want.
Oh, no, I'm fine. Hi, I'm Henry Sturm. I was here for the tennis thing. It was great to be recognized for that. I'm a junior at Carson High School. I'm This survey sounds pretty familiar, actually. I think I've taken this in, must have been my sophomore year. And I had a question about the data collection. On the survey that we did online, there was a spot for comments, or several actually, that were written replies. Where did those go, and how did you analyze those?
Good question. So those responses go to each one of the school sites and also to the district, and then we lay each one of those out, and then we look for comparisons in the data. But also, a lot of individual comments are very powerful, and so they do lead to change.
Okay.
All right.
Also, when you were talking about the relevance of classes and how you guys would be able to answer about that, that reminded me of, it was new when I was a freshman, a class called Freshman Transitions. And I understand there's, it has great intentions, and it was supposed to help us get ready for high school and be prepared, but I'm not sure if it actually really effectively did that for anybody, because all the top students are already self-motivated, like you said, and it was filling up an extra class where they could have been doing something else. And it seemed like most of the rest of the students just weren't really paying attention or didn't care. Mostly because some of the information just seemed so like self-explanatory. It was like how to study, and this is where everything is in the school. And it's great to know that like they should be able to have information on the first couple of days for here's where all the classes are and a general layout of the school and where you can expect to get things done, but I'm not sure if it's worth an entire semester to do that. My little sister's taking it right now, and she's quite the overachiever. Her grades are a lot better than mine. She doesn't have anything under a 95%, and her lowest class right now is Freshman Transitions, which I thought was kind of weird since she was taking a couple of honors courses in there. I have more, I promise. Yeah.
So from your perspective, if we're going to continue, I mean, we see some value in a freshman transition class, but I think to understand what you're saying, maybe content is something that needs to be revisited from time to time. What would be beneficial in your perspective that gets us past, okay, here's the do's and don'ts that, you know, we could tell you in a couple of days? What would be beneficial to get you to say where you are now, 3 years later?
Okay, when I first got to the high school, the biggest problem for me was the layout, because it's a big school going from middle school, and it's easy to get lost in there. And the room numbers especially you need to pay attention to, because they were assigned in no particular order in the high school. They don't follow any logical system, which is something they actually didn't go over in the class. Also, they could have mentioned, but they didn't, that all the general classes are in the same area, all the language arts classes are together, and all the math classes and science classes are all lumped together. That would have been nice to know. What else? Gosh, it seemed like also the second part of that, the second semester, they do health for, yeah, it's transitions health class. A lot of that information seemed to be repetitive from 7th grade. I came from Carson Middle. I'm not sure if it's the same at Eagle Valley, and that needed to be addressed. But I'm wondering about the impact that had also. I remember what really sticks out to me is we did an anonymous survey in that class, and it was like, it was anonymous, and they're like, all right, how many of you have already engaged in sexual intercourse already? And it was like half the class already had. So I'm not sure if having that class at that point was very beneficial. So maybe some more work in middle school would be better for that. And they made it like it was going to be a big deal and we'd learn new stuff, but it was all repeat information from middle school for me. I just remember the layout was oddly specific too for transitions in health. Like we had this workbook you could write in, and it was like completely guided, and on the test sometimes I get lost because there was like no room for interpretation on the answers. You had to know the exact wording for some of them. As like, I'm not sure if this was actually one, but it was like differentiating between study skills and study habits or something, and they'd have different definitions and you'd have to know what those were, and that was kind of odd. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Maybe just to close out my portion of this show. I appreciate those comments, but Sue, I was wondering, do we do kind of a exit interview with the, say, with freshmen, you know, as the year ends, what did they get out of a freshman transitions class? What do they wish they would have gotten out of it? And then maybe revisit it. The seniors, you know, 4 years later, looking back, boy, I wish they would have went over this. Do we take any surveys?
Right, since the first. I can check on that, but I think it would be, I was sitting here thinking the same thing, that would be a really informative for the teachers as they review their content for each year. I know the team has really taken the feedback from the first year, which Henry was a part of, and really revamped it. They work very closely with the guidance department at this point for that transition class, and maybe at some point it would be good for some of the teachers and the students that are currently in that class to talk about the kind of things that they're doing now, because it is changed since when you were in there, because it was the first time out, and we did need to do some more work on that particular class. So just some thoughts there.
Yeah, and of course I'm not trying to bash on the school. I obviously love my high school, and I understand that everything was in the best intentions, but that was a little disappointing freshman year where I could have had maybe another elective or could have started history a year early, because they don't start that till sophomore year.
Mr. Sturm, if I could, if you ever wanted to be a teacher, let me know. We have lots of openings. There's a good school up north that could probably help you out. I can see implementation specialists written all over this guy. I don't know about you guys, but I think he's got it. He's wired for it.
I appreciate the job offer. Can I add that to my resume?
Okay. Well, Henry, thank you very much for your straightforward responses.
Yeah.
And that'll help improve.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for listening to me speak.
Okay, thank you.
So, do you have any more questions for me? If not, I can. Thank you very much. As you know, that I really have great people working for me, and we have great people in the schools, and they really are the ones that are doing the heavy lifting. I just get to be the one that tells the story. So, thank you very much.
Well, I know in our last PLC that there was some movement on having focus groups of students, teachers, and probably going to get some real live input. And again, keep building up, though, and not assume that things are going well. What really is happening, and once we get to the students,
we're there.
It's all going to come together.
Yep.
So keep it up, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Agenda item number 10, discussion of possible agenda topics for the next joint meeting between the Board of Trustees and the Carson City Board of Supervisors. Mr. Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. As you know, we have met at least twice a year with our Board of Supervisors, and we've done that in a joint effort. And we are looking probably the end of January for our next joint meeting. And so taking advantage of this evening to discuss what topics might be of interest for the trustees to put forward for consideration to the city manager and the folks from the city that might work with us in putting together the agenda for that meeting. And some of the topics and things that have happened since our last meeting that we certainly could list as an agenda item or items for that meeting could include the presentation that we heard from Mrs. Bartos tonight. Obviously, we've got interest in providing certain opportunities for maybe the underserved population in our community. So having Mrs. Bartos come and talk to the joint group about the remote area medical event might be of interest, and just having the opportunity to share that information with members of the city supervisors and generate more discussion in that area if that be the case. Recently, of course, this board and the Board of Supervisors looked at the Cops in Schools grant. That might be an opportunity for us to continue talking about this particular initiative and maybe clarify anything that may yet be outstanding. We met today with members of Nevada Health Centers, and our school-based health center now has been open for approximately a month. And in October alone, the 15 days that we were open there, the clinic attended to 42 patients. And so we still are looking for additional data that we can share, and that might be a nice time to talk about the things that are going on at our school-based health center. But those are three of the things that immediately came to mind that I thought I could suggest. And if you have any additional thoughts or areas of interest, I would share those with the folks at the city as we prepare for this next meeting.
Steve?
I have a couple suggestions and then I guess a general thought. Anyway, with Race to the Top, I think it's time that we do something where we, I don't want to say honor, but recognize the positive changes. And by January, I mean, and what I'm looking for here, I guess, is a thought that the bullet points of the changes, Steve covered a few of those today. I know we can cover more. But it's beyond the point where we can say we're proud that we got the race to the top, we're proud that we wrote a good plan. We are seeing results, and I think the community needs to see those results. The other item that maybe goes along with that, and that is, I mean, change is exciting, but it also takes a lot of hard work. And if there was a way to note, you know, some of the points about what the educators have been doing to accomplish those positive changes. But that race to the top is a community-wide, you know, it's something that does benefit the entire community, not just our school system. The other thing about these joint meetings that I've seen so far, and again, it's a personal opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But for many years, I've been involved in sales, marketing, whatever you want to talk about it. And these joint meetings provide an excellent opportunity, as we know, for public relations. When we have 45-minute or 60-minute presentations, and I recognize the value and the changes the library's done, but there's just too much stuff there to, you know, you want to recognize the high points. And it needs to be, you know, again, my suggestion is that what we do during these joint meetings remains punchy, hit the high points, be excited about them, but, you know, if you bury it with background, it's boring. So, just an opinion. So
limit our presentations to
you know, a meeting like this, and really we do it in our writing, but these are bullet point meetings. They're not, you know, we're not sitting in oversight or hearing a point that we're voting on. They're bullet point meetings, and that's how the presentation should be, in my opinion.
Got it. Thanks.
Just thinking of the STEM education that we're doing, that we're going to be looking at, that may be a topic, perhaps the best program that the Carson City Schools Foundation with Mike Jackson is working on would be something.
Yeah, I look at the, I'll just add a couple comments. I look at these meetings, are we still in alignment? You know, we alignment in the sense that we've adopted each other's strategic plans. Board of Supervisors, you know, as a city, it's focused around quality of life. And I know that with our foundation, I'll just read a quote here with our own Carson City School District Foundation. And we're talking about education. Education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and the world better than you found it. Have we done that through the Race to the Top? Have we improved lives through the community partnerships such as Carson Tahoe, Southwest Gas, and all of these, the partners that have provided job shadowing and internship positions? I mean, I've got just a list of things here that could be summarized. They could be quick, but it's have we improved the lives of others through this joint meeting? And I'd like to hear something from the Board of Supervisors. I know it's all one way. You know, we're talking about the education, and we could go on for a lot of hours because it has significantly changed. And I think it has improved the lives of others. And through people like Henry and stuff, it'll keep getting better because we keep getting that feedback and we respond to that feedback. So, you know, one of the things, we'd like to hear a little bit from the board. Now, I say that, I sat on the board. If I were sitting on the board, there'd be a lot of things that I'd be talking about when it comes to the strategic plan as quality of life. What have they done? You know, as a board, and they're talking of a lot of discussions. What are we doing together to improve the lives of others? And we can say that through our education, and we should. And we could do that in 10 to 15 minute segments and hit the highlights. I agree with that. But we should do it. And the community needs to know that, what we are doing. And we need to know in conjunction, what are the Board of Supervisors doing also. Additional comments, questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, agenda item number 11, discussion of the process for completion of the superintendent's annual evaluation for the 2015 calendar year. And I'm going to turn this over to Steve Reynolds. He brought this up, last meeting. We have this meeting to discuss any final things that we want to do before we actually do the evaluation at the next meeting. So, Steve?
Couple of things, and then I guess open to discussion. But in the packet of the last meeting, you received the form that we'd used basically the last 2 years. That form was a compilation of items recommended by the National School Board Association, the Oregon Public School, the Oregon Association, and it really covers pretty much the entire width of what a superintendent's role is. And the goal behind this, of course, is that we as the people who have the most interaction of the public, between the public and the superintendent, can use any source we wish, but it's up for us to make individual comments or judgments in each of those areas about how we feel the superintendent has done. When we do the evaluation, we will have open discussion, as you remember, on each item with what our thoughts are and reach a conclusion on each item. And then adding up all the points will give us combining all the points will give us an evaluation of the superintendent. As part of this looking ahead, last year in January, and perhaps January lends itself again this year, but to look at the goals or what we might want to do in the any particular things we want to do in the future with the superintendent's evaluation for the following year, I think lend themselves to that January agenda item when we look ahead. So given that, are there any specific concerns, questions, or other thoughts regarding the evaluation process for this year?
I think the evaluation document and guideline that that you'd put together from a couple of sources is a good evaluation document. In addition, I think, Richard, you had some things that you entered into the record last year also. You could maybe provide in the board packet, what was the outcomes, or what is it that you, from what you proposed, did you see the results? And Steve, I think you're right. All of us, I don't think any of us on this board are bashful about talking with people or stuff, and through going to different places, either whether it's schools, administrative staff, as to Mr. Sook, as that leader and or administrator, I think people have given us some pretty honest feedback along the way. So I think Steve, I think we're prepared to just do this evaluation. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Ron had spoke for me last meeting, and I think January will be fine for me to present the 360 evaluation process that I'd like to see, or at least be a part of it. But I think as far as this concern, the goals that were stated, that Mr. Stokes stated earlier, can we get your summary of those goals prior to the meeting, though, so that we can utilize those for evaluation? Because I'm not so sure that does me a lot of good if I'm filling this out, but I don't know if you met all your benchmarks that you had presented to us. I think it would be a lot more reasonable if we had those, obviously more than a day before the meeting too, so that they can be included in your evaluation. Would that be possible to do?
And I think, Mr. Pavlakos, we all received a copy of the contract, and it's another evaluation guidance. So.
Yeah, and when we speak in January, we're probably going to need to look at a timeline for when we want to look at, or how we might want to look at any concerns with the, I would suspect we would want, at this point, I would suspect we'd want to consider offering a new contract in, mid-year next year. But I guess what I'm saying is we'd probably want to think about the process.
Well, I think we're
of
just,
that.
yeah, I think that we had that for the first meeting in December. Yeah. Right. That we're going to start on that.
So we're doing the evaluations in November, the next November meeting, and then we're going to look at contract.
Yeah, the terms of the contract in
December.
Yeah, in December, first meeting in December. Anyway, sounds like squared away. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good to go. Okay, discussion and possible action. Agenda number 12, discussion and possible action to cancel the second school board meeting in December 2015 in recognition of the Christmas holiday, December 22nd, 2015, for possible action. And again, Steve, you brought this up, and maybe Mr. Stokes should give a little background. I know it's on the 22nd. It's not. I think last year we didn't do it, but that was on. The meeting would have been on the 24th or Christmas Eve.
I guess the point that's been brought up in the past is if there is real value or something that's important that we meet that day in order to accomplish it, I'm sure that all of us here in the board and the administration that would be around, we want to do our duty. But in past years, it doesn't seem that that's been the case, that by missing that meeting that we had, lost, as they say, not performed our duties. So I think it's worth considering.
Board members?
Would it make our January 1st meeting longer? I mean, is it, because it seems like that second meeting in January went really long this year. So that's my only concern. If we cancel this meeting, does it make 2 long January meetings?
All the meetings go long.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
I just want to you know, I agree with Steve. I think if there's something critical that needs to be addressed and December is a timely time to do it, then of course we want to hold the meeting. But if it's items that, you know, aren't time sensitive, I think it is starting to get close and you run in danger of, are you going to have a quorum or not? So I'd be okay, you know, having a little longer meeting in January, I guess, and having that flexibility.
I sit on the fence with it, I guess, it's 50-50. For me, I think that obviously we want everybody present who could be present. I feel like it's our duty to meet and move through business. But at the same time, knowing that the customers we serve are on a break during that time and many might be going out of town, I think to handle an important topic at that meeting might be show a lack of respect for our constituents also, or like we're trying to, you know, do something shifty. So for me, you know, I don't know that that would be the best meeting to handle something important anyway, unless it was time sensitive.
In the old days, they used to do this superintendent evaluation at meetings, so no one. Seriously.
Laurel, any feelings one way or the other?
I'm just in agreement if it's not anything that's time sensitive that we have to be accomplished at a time. The only time sensitive thing that I'm aware of right now is that the evaluation has to be completed by the 31st. So if we can't get it done next meeting and the meeting after that.
Richard?
I was just going to add, and it kind of goes along with some of the remarks that trustees have made, and I believe in the past we've had a rather limited agenda where maybe all we've done is even considered the consent agenda and called it a night. So, I mean, there's a variety of ways that we could go, but I know initially from an operational perspective and from the way it was perceived from a business perspective that we had to have board approval of things like payroll registers and accounts payable warrants and those types of things. But I believe that we've since determined that that can be done in a different way where we don't we can ratify actions rather than requiring two meetings a month in order to accomplish that. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if the board does determine that it's not necessary to meet on the 22nd because of holiday conditions, then business can still happen as expected, and or we can have an abbreviated agenda of some type. That's another way to look at it if we do meet on a shorter agenda in that second meeting.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? It's for possible action, so
I'll propose that I move the Carson City School District Board of Trustees cancel the second school board meeting in December 2015. And that, of course, would be the date December 22nd, 2015.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion on the motion, and as part of the discussion on the motion, like was brought up, unless there's time-sensitive items, you know, a qualifier. I mean, we're not just going to cancel it.
We could just do, we could have another motion to put it back on there if something came up. Or except we'd have to agendicize it. But we could,
So we're going to leave the motion in the second as presented. Okay, now any discussion from the public? Henry, got any comments? No. And person in the back?
She's not coming up.
She's not coming up? No, okay.
No, her birthday's the 24th, so she'll be happy.
Okay. All right, well, seeing no other comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. There's no meeting in the, or the second meeting in December, so. Agenda item number 13, approval of consent agenda.
I move that the Carson City School District Board of Trustees approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
Second by Stacy. Comments from the public? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Agenda item number 14, informational items. This is for discussion only, but as the items are presented in our packet, any discussion, any concerns? Okay, seeing none. Request for future agenda topics?
I do, just because I've been attending the Wellness Committee, and one of the concerns that was brought up in the committee meeting regarding the possible implementation of 3 recesses is that it would be easier to do after the semester break. And so I'm wondering if that, if the Wellness Policy or Wellness Committee comes up with a policy and comes up with something like that, is that something that we should implement before the semester starts again, so that it could be done before the semester break?
So you want to have a discussion on that?
I think that that's one of those things like the wellness, when we came up with the wellness policy, I don't think you could start that in the middle of the semester. I think it's something that has to be
Which is why I'm
implemented.
saying maybe we should do it before the end of this year, because the semester starts new in January.
Oh, not implementing it, but just getting a policy.
Well, getting the
out there.
policy, and then they can get it implemented at the semester break when it comes up. Semester break is December to January. Wouldn't that make sense?
Sounds like an agenda, yeah.
Is it the agenda item to present the policy, or is the agenda item to discuss?
I think we should, I think if there's going to be a policy, we should get it on the agenda before the next semester.
So it'd be in December? That'd be the first meeting in December. I don't think we have time.
We don't have time.
They only have one meeting.
If I could just throw something
We have a
out.
meeting in November.
Just a thought. Obviously, we have the need to run this past our Wellness Council, which meets next Thursday. Trustee Crossman has suggested that she would be willing to work with me and help establish some fundamental language that could be considered. And rather than actually creating a policy, might suggest putting that language into the regulation, which doesn't require then the same procedural conditions as a policy would. I mean, that would be another way to consider this. And then you could actually insert that into the wellness regulation as a part of that general thinking.
So, I mean, obviously a policy would be our way of putting teeth to it if we all were in agreement. Can we have like a discussion on what our board intent was with our policy to direct you how a regulation might look? Is that kind of what you're getting at? And is that something we can do?
Well, I believe the board has several directions. I'm just thinking with the timeline, because one of the things that will be critical for our staff is actually putting that intent into practice, which means they've got to change now some operational conditions at their site, which includes changing their schedule. So another consideration.
Yeah, that's why I was trying not to tread into a discussion on this, but I agree. That's why I don't know, feels bigger than just a simple change in a regulation.
And I'm just to echo that, I can't remember the name of where I researched it and which group it was that recommended that that school boards have a policy on recess. I don't have the ability to access my research right now because I forgot my phone, but that they should have a general policy regarding recess in elementary schools is a recommendation. And so if it's a broad one, that may be something that could be addressed. I don't know.
Okay, let me understand, just a broad, to bring forward a broad policy about recess, general recess practices, I guess, or?
I think what is specifically being addressed is the elementary recesses. The wellness policy covers the elementary and the secondary schools, which have completely different needs for that. And so that's why I do think an elementary recess policy is a good idea.
Okay, so coming down to the timing, can we have that, a policy with a policy, or the Wellness Committee having a meeting for the first meeting in December? Mike, you get some?
To look at the time that's left, there would have to be agreement, I suppose, in the next two meetings if we've just canceled the second meeting in December. And then that leaves a pretty short timeline, pretty short turnaround for principals to adjust their calendars and their schedules to accommodate changes in whatever new policy may say.
Well, there was a lot of discussion at that last wellness meeting about it. Do you think it would even make it out of the wellness committee? She's talking about a basic policy, but it's kind of been, the wellness committee has been filtering stuff like we did with the policy, and we vetted it out there. I almost feel like if the way that you're rushing it, it's not going to get vetted there, and it's going to end up being vetted here, which makes, as a committee member, I hate when I'm on a committee and nobody listens to me and they already do what they're going to do. So that's just one of the things that I'm kind of struggling with is I don't know if that policy can get vetted through the wellness committee in one meeting and then have a general thing come out of that. I'd rather it come out of that committee than to have you guys, I mean, you'd be working on the committee anyway, but to vet it, to have it done there instead of bringing the policy here and then bringing it back to them to look at. I just kind of think that might, and my feeling is it's kind of like a little backwards.
I guess, I mean, because the committee's already met, well, they've talked about the wellness, they've met and already talked about it once, and there wasn't any draft at that point. There was some discussion, and at that meeting, it seemed to me that several of the administrators were on board with making a change at the semester break. And so I guess that's where, to me, it seems that it's not something that we would want to wait a whole year to implement. If it's a good change for the kids, I know there's some things, but it's good for the kids, and I don't see any benefit in waiting too much longer if that's something we want to implement, to get it implemented.
Yeah, I guess just to weigh in, my thought is, I agree we don't want to wait too long, but at the same time, we don't want to rush it. What I'm hearing is, it's still at the committee level. By the time the committee goes back and forth and figures something out, and we get it, and then it goes to the principals to figure out how the schedule is going to work, and then it gets disseminated down to the teachers to see how it works in the classroom, I'm really concerned that no one's going to have, the people who are actually going to have to live with this aren't going to have any time to react to it. They're going to come back from Christmas break or winter break, and surprise, you got to revamp your curriculum now to make this work. So I just want to be careful that we're not creating a hardship for the ones that have to live with this on a daily basis.
It sounds to me.
Well, that's what I think we're treading too far into discussion. It was simply, I think maybe quickly, you need to decide if you want to do a policy that we're going to have a first reading or have a discussion on the implementation. But after this meeting, I think we've lost track of it. This is your topic that you wanted agendized. And so I think us essentially telling you, no, we don't think you should, this isn't the right way to do that right now. I think if that needs to, if Trustee Crossman wants that on the agenda, then we should plug that spot in, and then that's for her to decide if it's a policy discussion or just a discussion.
Okay, so that's just to have a discussion about whether we want to direct staff to draft the regulation or draft the policy?
No, I think that's already been.
I think we've had that discussion. I think
It's the timing of that policy.
I think the agenda request by Trustee Crossman, as I understand it, is to have a first reading, if you will, on a policy regarding recess for elementary and is extended middle school students or just elementary. And so typically you take that request, you work with the superintendent, and you bring it back at the appropriate time once you've got, if you need committee input, whatever you need. But this discussion about what ifs and when is the discussion you ought to have when you have this before you on an agenda. Because the committee may meet next week, it may agree on a proposed policy, and you might be all set and ready to go. Or you might not. But at this point, you don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, this is my own different topic if we're past that. Are you ready for new ones, or do you want to comment on that?
Okay, all right. What it is, we've already directed, the establishment of a policy. It's just the timing of when that policy, and your concern is it should be in place before people come back from the winter break. But
yeah, based on some of the discussions that we had, yeah.
okay, then maybe if you want to put on an agenda item, it probably is not practical, to do that, but there could be a definite date so people have some timing, like in February, we'd like the policy in February or something like that. And it could be implemented March 1st, with an implementation, but it'd give people time then to say, if it were passed, what do we have to do? We're going to have 3 recesses in effect: morning, lunch, and afternoon. How would that work with our current teaching? How would we adjust? But okay, just for your request is to have that policy brought, before December. Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
My schedule didn't permit me to meet with Mr. Stokes earlier. Normally I'd run something past him before, but I would like to look into creating an inclement weather policy. Some teachers and staff have brought up that it would be nice to have, like if you look at Washoe County, they have one that dictates that by 5:30 in the morning, a notification will go out if school is either canceled or if they're going to have a delayed start. Delayed start is by 2 hours. And then everybody knows, and then there's a hard set time. It's my understanding that we don't have anything, a practice like that right now. And it would be nice, some different teachers and staff have brought up to me that they might make it all the way to school and then find out it's canceled because of the different start times and stuff. So I don't know that we need to necessarily delve into dictating the times, but I was thinking in my head that, and I was going to meet with Mr. Stokes hopefully this week, and that we direct that there is a inclement weather procedure, that helps the staff to have an outlined way that we handle those events.
Okay, we'll put that on the next agenda, discussion on an inclement weather policy. Okay. Additional agenda items? I'd like to have the one coming back and following up with that summit, proposed summit on December 9th at the PLC, the STEM Summit, and to have just a short presentation of why we're having it, and I think it's important as to why, what's to be gained, and what are the expected outcomes that we can expect from this. Because, as I understand it, it's a pretty big deal, because it's one in which a lot of community partners may want to participate in this one. So if we can just have that as a short agenda item, what it is, why we're having it, who's involved, and what are the expected outcomes. Additional agenda items? Seeing none. Anybody else have any comments? Anything from the public? Okay, seeing none. This meeting is adjourned. We're out of here.